Okay, welcome everyone to our Nordics MUG session, first one this year. We are going to start with some introductions. I'm Veronica, one of the user group leaders. I started my journey with Marketo about 10 years ago in Copenhagen. Today, I lead the marketing ops team at a company called Alma. Michael, do you want to go next?
Sure. I am from the other side of the fence, so I actually come from the Adobe side. My name is Michael Knudsen, or Knudsen, depending on where you're from, and I'm what we call a solutions consultant. I have also been a Marketo customer in my previous life, which means that I have a passion for the tool, and that's part of why I've joined Veronica and Nick here as MUG leaders here in the Nordics. Nick, I'll let you quickly do you.
Yes. So, hi everyone. My name is Nick de Boer. I'm a Belgian living in Finland, and I work for Trimble. Trimble is a big international company, and my role in the company is in marketing technology. I'm leading a marketing tech or MarTech team, and working a lot with colleagues in the US. I've been a Marketo user for about, I think, 10 years, probably more than 10. I really enjoy it.
Thank you. And for today, I'm going to cover a few housekeeping slides. Promise I'll keep it short. We will pass over to Ulrich and Sanne to give us the presentation about AI, which we're here for. And then at the end, if time allows, I will talk a bit about the migration to Adobe Identity Management for Marketo users. And while we go to the presentation, feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we will take those after the presentation. Okay, we want to make sure that this space is first and foremost for the users. It remains a safe space to share challenges and solutions. So Adobe set a few rules such as no pitching or contacting people outside of the MUG without their consent. For those who join a little later, a heads up that we are recording this session and we will make the recording available to everyone who registered for the session on our YouTube for Adobe MUGs. Okay, I'll quickly run through what else is going on in the Marketo user group world. There are actually a few new chapters, such as the Women in Tech, which is a virtual chapter. I also noticed that Netherlands has a chapter now. So if you feel like traveling, know that they host a few in-person sessions there. Otherwise, you're welcome to join any of the sessions you see on the calendar. You can scan this QR code. They will take you to the registration page for the MUGs. And yeah, feel free to join any session that looks interesting. Yeah, Germany also. Today is like European MUGs Day. I don't know, we didn't talk about it or agreed, but seems like Germany, Nordics, and Netherlands has a session today, which is nice. Okay, and Adobe Summit is coming up in Vegas, March 17 or 18 to the 20th. I know there's a pre-conference. You can join online. I'm curious if anyone is going. Give me a thumbs up in the chat. I never been, but I know it's always fun and very, very insightful. There are a few Marketo sessions here that are highlighted just because there's so many topics normally. But we can see quite a few, talking about AI, like we're going to talk about today. So yeah, feel free to already, you can register on the website, you can choose the different sessions, you can create an agenda. So everything is online.
I can say a couple of words, Veronica, about it as well. I've been to the Adobe Summit in Vegas a few times, and I can highly recommend it. Looking at the agenda, of course, the agenda of the summit is massive because there are so many different I mean, it's all of the Adobe technologies that are being talked about. Marketo is one of them. When I look at the agenda, usually the beginning, the Tuesday and part of Wednesday is more a high level overview of the different technologies, and the really in-depth Marketo sessions are usually on Thursday, presented by actually many presented by the Marketo champions. But now I can see that there are already some specific Marketo presentations on Tuesday and Wednesday too. So that's nice to see. Other than that, yeah, it's Vegas, so I cannot tell much of it, but it's fun.
You've been to previous summit, no, Nick?
Yes, last year, this year I won't be there, but last year and the year before I was there. Or not the year, it was COVID, but yeah, the 2 times before this year I've been there.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Have you signed up for any sessions, Nick?
No, unfortunately this year I won't be there, but nevertheless I still highly recommend it.
Yeah. And everything will be streamed and I think replayed after the event. Okay, I will continue.
So next up, we have the main event where Sanne from Grundfos will take us through the approach that they are currently working with, in this case, Magnity, on to implement this aspect of generating both multilingual, personalized communication in Marketo, utilizing AI as a core pillar. And Sanne will take us through the approach that they are using to do so and what they're seeing, what the outcomes are. And then Ulrik will take us through how Magnity actually works and functions kind of from a bit higher level, you could say. There'll be a demo and all kinds of things. So hopefully it's going to give you guys some inspiration to how AI can be used in this specific manner of optimizing that content generation perspective. So I think we'll turn it over to Ulrik and Sanne. So if you guys share your screen and kind of take it from there, then we'll take it as it comes. And you're muted, Ulrik, just heads up.
That is perfect.
Still not hearing you, Ulrik, just heads up. Nope. There we go.
I'm just not that used to Zoom, so I just need to find the unmute button. So I'll share my screen, and Sanne, you are the one who goes first, but maybe we should just do a brief introduction, Sanne.
Yes, you can start, and then I can take over.
My name is Ulrik Sandholt. I am the Chief Product Officer of Magnity. I'm one of the co-founders. I was working in digital communication as a consultant for more than 20 years. And I have worked with B2B companies primarily over the last 10 years. We've been in the consultancy prior that was a Marketo partner and still is a Marketo partner for more than 10 years, the oldest, I think the longest running Marketo partner in Denmark, Michael. Yes. So we have come across many of your problems. So once we saw ChatGPT 3.5, we started building this platform that you're now gonna see a little bit of. And over the last 9 months, it's turned into a real company. And we have gotten Sanne, amongst others, but one of our most important customers is Grundfos, and Sanne, you are representing those, so I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Hey everyone, my name is Sanne, and I'm working as a business owner for Marketo in Grundfos. And together with Magnity, we have looked into how Magnity can help us with our marketing automation challenges. And we have a short agenda where we will go into the challenges we have in Grundfos. Then we are going to look into Magnity vision and solution. We are going to see how Grundfos are using Magnity today. And we will have a short Magnity demo. And then we have some results from the POC we have had, and also how it's going live now, and then some questions in the end. And yeah, Grundfos, we are going to look into the challenges of scalable automation. And our bottleneck for Grundfos is time, and how we can create and scale marketing automation. And that is not all. We also have some other challenges than time. And some of them are that we are, by creating content for global campaigns, is very slow process that takes months from brief to launch. So the complexity kills our ability, and we have trouble by reacting to challenges that we see in the markets. So, for example, we have had a 40-year anniversary for our product, but because of the long process of creating content, we ended up by having the announcement 1 year after the anniversary. So it was 41 instead of 40, because we had such a long time by creating the content. We also rely on our agencies and the consultants for creating content and implementing everything. So that is very time consuming for us to use that. We did not have the resources for creating personalization. It was actually just possible or realistic for us to go that way because of the huge amount of work that will require, and also how the markets will say yes to that. There was just too much to do in the personalization. We also have strict compliance for our 60+ markets in the 4 divisions. That is killing the creativity that we can do. And we did not have the room for testing, learning, or failure because of the time and the budget that this will require.
So I guess it's over to me. So all of these challenges are something that we come across many times when you're talking to B2B companies. I hope that some of you can recognize some of them. But it all comes down to having a platform that allows you to take time out of the equation. So whenever we build something into Magnity, the vision for it is to reduce the time you spend on executing marketing to 0 seconds. That does not mean that we are going to 0 seconds tomorrow, but it means that if you're thinking about a feature coming into Magnity, the goal of the feature is to reduce the time you spend on executing marketing towards that goal. That doesn't mean that it's going to be successful in the next year, but hopefully it will help you get there slowly and steadily. The way it works is that we've built a platform that now supports 3 different channels: building emails, building web and landing pages, and building social media posts. The platform works like this. First of all, it allows you to easily drag and drop all your content into templates like email templates, social media templates, landing page templates, whether it is documents, videos, or web pages. So that enables you to get a full overview of all your content, and it enables you to fastly build content that you need in order to scale your approach to automation. Secondly, you can personalize everything because all the personas you have is integrated into the platform. You can see that they have a different set of parameters, and you can select as many personas as you want, and the AI will rewrite versions of the email so it's directed at the specific pains, problems, and goals of each specific persona, so you can fast do the experimentation and the testing risk-free from the extra budget that you would normally allocate to it. It does high-quality instant translation. I know Sanne will talk a little bit about that as well. But it's quite easy to do translation. You just select what languages you want to translate to, and it automatically identifies if pages are available in that particular language. And then you can see that you not only have personalized variants, but you have personalized variants across a multitude of languages at your disposal within seconds rather than months. And last but not least, it gives you an AI copywriting assistant that allows you to help brainstorm or edit content so that you can get ideas, or you can get feedback on how you want to form your content, all based on a very detailed rule set that guardrails brand voice and the governance process of compliance. The way it works is that we go, for instance, in this case, it's a web page. We go into the web page, we scrape the content, and the content then goes into Magnity. Magnity then has a connection to OpenAI and Anthropic, and it also has connections to other large language models, and it creates context out of it. It could also scrape a campaign brief from a document and do the same thing. So basically, it could scrape documents, web, audio, video, and create the same context, whether you want to build a SOMI post, a web page, a landing page, or an email. So what this does, it enables you to stop spending needless time on going from a campaign brief to a fully fledged, personalized, multilingual campaign, and then shorten that time gap so you can go and have a shorter time to market with high efficiency. Back to you, Sanne.
Yes. So how Grundfos moves toward 0 seconds. If we look at the process, in Grundfos we have implemented Magnity in our plus 60 countries across 4 different divisions. And the way you should see our division is like 4 different companies under one company. So we have different teams, different setup to handle marketing automation. Some have a big global team. Some others have one global marketeer and only have local marketeers that are collaborating together with that person. So it's varies a lot between the 4 divisions. They have their own target group for communication. They have different communication to communicate about on the web page. And we have also different products between the 4 divisions. So what we found out that is we cannot have one Magnity instance. We need to have actually 4 different where we can get it customized for each division so that each division have it as how they are using Magnity or how they are using or working with marketing automation today. So that means we needed the 4 solution inside Magnity. Each division have their own rules for creating content. They have their own user settings. They have their own content and tagging, and they have their own specific solutions that is fitting their needs. Each of them have. So it's not just one platform. We needed to customize it. Otherwise, it would not be user friendly for the marketeers that are working in Magnity. So if we look at the process and how we started this, we started with a POC where we had a collaboration with 3 of the 4 divisions that had the time and resources to be in this POC with us. We selected the key markets to focus on, where we could count on the engagement and valuable feedback that they could give us. Because when we are working in that many countries, we are in situations where we only have one local marketeers in some countries. So we could not just take whatever we want. We needed to make sure that those we had in the POC were also available for us to collaborate with. In the POC, we built 266 emails in 20 plus countries and languages, so we could get some feedback on the translations, because the main focus for us were the translation. How is the translation with AI versus a human that is translating it? And that was the main focus we had to figure out how is this working, and can we rely on this when we are going forward. Then we rebuilt the rules and we tested when we got some feedback from the local marketeers in the countries. And we ended with really good result on the POC. So not only 3 of the divisions, but all 4 divisions were very interested in getting Magnity as the new option for marketing automation. So even though we only had 3 of the division in the POC, all 4 were actually ready to jump in this and try it out. Then we got into the development phase, where we were scoping and planning the key features and developed the features that were needed. Mainly the features that were the same for all 4 divisions, so we could get right from the beginning. And then we got into the implementation phase. When working with that many countries, it would not be beneficial to roll out all countries at the same time. We needed to find a way to get it more structured and in the right way, to not rely on the local marketeers where they were not that engaged in AI or in new work or in new tools, and don't have the time because they have a lot of different tasks on their table. So we needed to find a way to divide these countries into different stages on highly engaged and not that engaged. So we had 4 tiers we focused on. The first tier were the key main countries, and then along the way we had more and more tiers in, but not that engaged tiers in the end. And then we tested it out with the few tiers in the beginning, so we also could see, are there anything we needed to change before we roll out for all 60+ countries, because that could be a huge amount of work to start over for that. And then we also looked into the features and got more and more features added to the instance. By using the first tiers, it also allowed us to test it out along the way. So you look at the most relevant tiers and then see how Magnity performing, how can we use it, can we test a bit more on it, and what is working, where could we challenge it a bit or something like that. And then end of last year, in December, we finalized the implementation. We got all features added, all countries got implemented, and we also got all divisions onboarded. So each division have their own Magnity team that are working in the solution. Some have a lot in, and some have only a few. That depends on the division. So again, the setup is very is not the same for all of them. And now we are in the activation phase, where we are starting by testing the tool. All divisions are in it, creating content, trying to send out newsletters, and trying to use it instead of the old way of doing it. And that is very interesting to see how it's performing and how it's going, and getting some feedback from the marketeers that are using the tool. To give a bit more perspective on the process and what we have done before and what we are doing now, we have made this comparison of our campaign process. As I have told now, we have 4 divisions, so we have different ways of working. So I have created this view from one of the division to give an insight in how the process have been for this division. So before Magnity, we started 6 months prior to launch by collecting inputs and inspiration to content for 9 newsletters at the time. Then the content was planned and presented for all markets, and then approved from them. Then we gave the content brief for the agencies. They write the content and they created the graphics and created a mock-up for the newsletters. And then they got some feedback and changes. When all content were approved, it got sent to translations by the agency. It got implemented into Marketo. All links were tagged by Qtix for each newsletter. Then the local marketeers reviewed the newsletters, gave feedback and changes, and then it was set live.
Moment.
There we go. Now it looks a bit different. As you can see, the blue boxes are removed because we are no longer using the agencies. And that was also the task where it was a lot time consuming for us, because it was human hands that needed to create the content and implement it and tag that, translate it, and that was a long time consuming task. So now we are looking into that we are starting 1 to 3 months prior to launch, and we do not need to create the 9 newsletters at the same time. We can actually start out with 3, for example, and then focus on those. Then we are creating the content. We are translating it and tagging it by Magnity. We still have the local reviews as we had before. And then we are getting the emails implemented automatically into Marketo. So as you can see here, the timing is a lot shorter. We have speeded up the process. And this is just the beginning, because I hope to see that the campaign brief and the local reviews also will be a lot shorter in the coming month. If we look at the main challenges we had, it was especially time to market. It was the opportunity to react and not be locked by manual processes. I will not go through all of those steps we can see some benefits of. I will only focus on where we could see that this is helping us on the main challenges. So first of all, before we had 6 months time to market, now we are hoping to gain 1 to 2 months. We are in some divisions down to 1 month, but we are hoping to see 1 to 2 for all 4 divisions. We still have an extreme amount of content that makes it a lot difficult for us to figure out what is available in all countries and get the full overview and the full picture of it. And now with Magnity, we can actually see it right away. We can search for it and tag it, so we can find what we are searching for and see where is it translated and where are we missing it. We also have extremely resource-heavy content production, and it was a long time to market we had there. With Magnity, we can see that the content production takes seconds with the drag and drop function. That helps a lot on again the time to market. We never created personalization before because it was time consuming, and it took a lot of the budget to change or to test this out or use the personalization. But now it's much easier with the personalized content and also for the testing, so we can use it for A/B testing in a much easier way, where we are not relied on that many resources. So that is helping us a lot again. And we have minimized the manual task extremely by not using human hands, but using AI and Magnity for that instead of the agencies.
So I guess that was it, Sanne.
Yes.
begin with. I know you'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you, Sanne, for going through that. I think it's helpful for everybody to see how it works so that you can kind of envision how does this work. So I'm going to jump in to show you a demo of how Magnity works for Grundfos. I'm just going to minimize my screen here. And I'm going to go into the platform, see if I'm still logged in. I am. So basically, when you get into the platform, this is the email part of the platform. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit because I'm on a small laptop. But what you can see here is you have an interface where in the top you have some general functionalities like saving, exporting, localizing, creating a new project. You can choose any content you want. So I could go and choose Croatia. And once I choose Croatia, all the Croatian content from the website that's available to use in Magnity comes up. And I can see if I click this, I actually go to the Croatian page, so it understands all the URLs of all the content. We have about 170,000 different content items in the platform. We can have many more if we want it. Going to go back to the global one. You can pick different templates. For instance, you can pick something with a related article over here in the middle. You see the email templates. You can pick something with tree-related stories. And you can pick something with a pale pink background. And we can add as many templates as we want. These are the 5 templates that's going to cover, I think, maybe 97% of your needs, Sanne, at the moment. But if somebody came up and said, oh, could we pick another template? It's fairly easy to implement that. You cannot drag and drop module into the Magnity user interface because we are covering a lot of platforms and each platform has a different way of doing it. But it's once you have exported emails from Magnity into Marketo, you can add as many additional modules to the template as you like, just as if you created your own email. Underneath that, we have a search field where you can filter content and see specific tags that you want to filter on. You can filter on web pages. Here you would also see documents and video if you had those up. That's not where Grundfos is yet, but it is more than possible. I can, for instance, go in here and search for commercial at the URL that contains commercial and find a page that I'd like. For instance, here we have a commercial heating solution. And I can drag this in here. And when I drag this in here, it writes the email. Actually, I want to find another version of it. Oh, it's here. This one. Sorry. I want to show you this one. So this one is an article. And if I wanted to go to the page that it was on, I could just click here. And I can see this is the page it's about. I can go to this is the Learn tab, and it's going to present this content for the readers in Magnity. As you can see, when I drag this in, it immediately wrote a headline, a body text, a CTA. It inserted an image from the website. I can, of course, go in here and adjust images, upload other images from my own image bank or from the Grundfos image bank if you had access to that, and change that. It's just standard stuff. What I can do is I can also add a related article. So I could go up here and say, you know what? This is about commercial heating. I want to add a customer case down here. I'll drag this one in here if I can grab it. And then it writes a customer case down here. So actually it refers to the customer case, explore customer stories, showcasing how our approach to intelligence, water, and efficient stuff do this. And then here down here we have it. So once I've done that, I can minimize the content library when I don't need that anymore. And I can go and chat with Magnity. So I can see this text is a little short. I might want to make this a little shorter. I'm just going to minimize the left here. So a little longer. I can either just write it, make this 75 words. And it immediately understands that I'm chatting not only with the text that has been generated here, but also the source text of the web page that it comes from, and all the rules that guardrails in the back that I'm going to show you in just a minute. I can add context here, and I can then go in here and I can easily, manually adjust this if I want to. So I don't have to just use AI. I can, of course, write stuff myself if I want to. I can do this for the headline as well, but I also have stuff like quick prompts that's going to help people who don't feel very comfortable about using AI. Doing easy stuff fast. For instance, it could be I want to create some variants of headlines. So I could say, test some different tones, and it gives me a few variants. And I can say, I would like to choose number 1, and then it gives me number 1, and I can add number 1, and so forth, and so forth. So it allows me to go from having nothing to having some pretty nice content. If I go back up into the body text here, I could go in and even do HTML. I could, for instance, go in and highlight this and say, I want this to be in bold, add that to the email. I could also go and say, you know what? I like to work with bullets. So could you please, using this quick prompt, choose this one? I could write this manually if I wanted to. It just makes it easier. Replace paragraph 2 with bullets. And here it's replacing it with bullets. And I could go, you know, I like bullets, but wouldn't it be cool if I gave each of these bullets a subheadline? And it understands that subheadlines go with bold. So it's going to give me some subheadlines here that's going to make this email even more distinguishable. And pretty quick, we have an email that's about this heat ink cost reduction and a customer case to showcase it that you would have spent quite a long time on before in Grundfos. But then you're thinking, you know, we have different target audiences. So we have this button up here where you can select between all the different persona profiles that Grundfos has in their working space. They have 10 different. You can read about each of them, and each of these persona profiles consist of a description. I'm just going to go to the left, a description, some goals and motivations, fears and concerns, limitations, and value propositions. You can add as many of these parameters in here as you want. This is just the way that Grundfos has desired that it's been set up. So there is no limitation of what you can do. But of course, you might want to write, for instance, the technical director, the operational manager. And as we can see, those have very cost-oriented goals. Total running cost optimization. Their fears and concerns is failure of systems, of projects, delays and downtime. Whereas the operational manager has other specific goals and motivations. So let's try and choose those. I think we chose 2. I just want to make sure that I didn't choose more. So I'm going to ask it to build a personalized version of this email for these 2 specific segments or target audiences. And pretty fast, it's gotten a version. You can see the operations manager version, but it's changed the headlines, the body text, and the sometimes even the CTAs, so that it's applying its logic to fit with the operation manager's specific need. The same things goes for the technical director. It's changed the subject line, the pre-header, everything, so it makes it more personalized and more relevant. And if you're in doubt about what it's done, you can go in here and click the element here and just go to the quick prompts. I mean, you can always just write whatever you want, just like you do with ChatGPT. It's completely free. You can go into the quick prompts and you can go and say, you know what? I would like to understand what you've done. So I could go under modify personalization and say, please explain to me what you have done. So instead of like directly working with editing text, now we're having a brainstorming session with the AI where it understands the rules, it understands the personas, it understands the content. And I can zoom in here, if I just zoom in here, and I can see that it's writing to me that this personalized email is tailored for the technical director. The goals and motivations that we've talked about is total running cost optimization. Example, minimize energy consumption to lower operational costs and meet sustainability targets, speaks directly to their goal of reducing total running costs, and so forth down there. And you can then have a dialogue where they're saying, I don't really like that. Could you change it a bit and maybe focus on some other value propositions, or maybe I decrease focus on limited direct involvement, increase focus on cost. And pretty quickly, you have a very good framework for underlining how to do personalization across the entire organization, because it's so difficult to implement customer-centric personalization across the entire organization. So now everybody in Grundfos has the same way and the same framework underlining how to do this, enabling them to do personalized communication. I'm just going to show you something just briefly. When we are dragging in content, what really happens behind the scenes is we are applying a set of rules. I'm just going to go in and show you the rule sets we have in the background. So when talking about governance and compliance, we have 3 different levels of rules. We have global rules. For instance, here we have tone of voice rules. And we apply those if I just expand them. There are written rules about how it should apply tone of voice to the writing that it's doing. We have writing rules, which is things that it can and cannot do. For instance, it should never use salutations or sign-off in their response. Also, always ensure all messages exclude greetings, hi there, dear name, or something, because we won't want that, and a bunch of other writing rules. There are also specific task descriptions on how to solve specific tasks that we are asking it to do. But there are also other rules. Each market have their own rule. So for instance, France has a rule on how to write in French. And it has rules that are guidelined around, are there specific words that it should translate in a specific way. For instance, HVAC is to be translated into CVC, and so forth, so that local editors can also guardrail rules and make it right in a specific way for their local markets. The last thing is we have control rules for all of the base prompts. For instance, when writing a headline, I can see here, then write a headline for a marketing email as a compelling question that addresses the reader directly, sparking curiosity and engagement. Write this headline in this language, and it inserts what we call a replacement string, which is basically if you are dragging in English content, it would say write it in English. I can go out and check this out. So we were back at our email, and you can go up in the chat and check out here, and it says write the headline in British English up here. So basically what it's doing is it's taking the rules and applying it at the beginning so that it's writing stuff per the rules. And then as we chat with it and expand our engagement with it, all of the global rules and local rules are put into effect to guardrail the output quality so that it matches the on-brand voice and the way to translate. And that brings me to the next part, translation. So once you've been writing these specific personalized variants of your content and you're happy with those, you can translate. You could also go the other way and translate first and then write personalized variants. But sometimes it's easier to just look at the personalized variants in English and see if they're good enough before you're starting to translate them. So in Magnity, when I click localize, it runs through all of the content in the library and identifies if each of these URLs that the email is built upon are available for content. Because we won't want to create an email with content that doesn't have a local page. So for instance, here you can see that Belgian French only has one out of the 2 modules available. If we created that, it would create an empty model in that space, and I could drag in another article to showcase how that worked. But I'm going to try and take something that works to begin with. So I'm going to select Argentina, like Dutch, Belgian, Brazil, Colombian, Chinese, Bulgarian, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Croatia, and Finland. And we can create all of them, but I'm just going to do this to make it a little bit more flexible. So I click the select the send to translation button, and it does take about 10-15 seconds before it responds. So let's see and just give it a little while it's translating all the content. It's now translating the default content and the 2 variants into the selected languages. So here it is. Now we can go to the little slider up here and see this is British English as we had before. And now I can go to the Argentine Spanish version. And as you can see, it's maintained the HTML formatting that we did in the original email. So it doesn't replace that with something. It understands that it only has to replace the text and not the code. I can look at the operations manager in the Argentinian version. I can look at the technical director of the Argentinian version and so forth. So I can go to the simplified Chinese version, and I can go to the Belgian Dutch version, Brazilian Portuguese, Colombian Spanish, Bulgarian version. As you can see, the Russian alphabet is in full use here. Croatian, the Finnish, and Bosnia, and so forth and so forth. So pretty fast, you can go in Grundfos from having an idea of what you want to write to having a global multilingual personalized campaign that you can then send for review and work with. The way you do it is that you go in here and you say, this is Mark 8, for instance, we call it a name, and you save the campaign so that it's saved for other people to access it. I'm just going to wait a little while. It's just have to save the screenshot and save all the content. It does take a little while to save stuff because there's a lot of text going on, as you can see. If we give it a small minute. On. Here it is. So what I can do now is I can go into the projects and load all the projects with there are also a little bit of projects available. And then I can select that and I can share it with other people. So I can go into the project menu and select this MUG 8 and go and say, share this with Sanne, for instance, right? Because I want her to see it. I should be able to find, oh, maybe it's like, I can share it as Andreas, for instance. Andreas and other people. And when I send that to them, they will be able to either edit or publish, or I can remove access for them. I'm just going to remove this because I think Andreas is going to be confused if I have shared this with him. But the point is that you can share it with all the local users who can then go back and review each of the pieces of content, and they're supposed to review in their local language, which means that if I go back into the email here and load it, I can now go, if I was a person in, let's take Brazil, I can go here and have a chat with it. And if I ask it something in English, like shorten the first paragraph, because I don't like that in my language, then it will answer me in Brazilian. So here we can see that I've shortened the Brazilian paragraphs so slightly, and I can work with this as much as I want. And then very soon we will have a functionality where you can then approve the review so that it goes back to the owner saying this person has reviewed the content. It is now ready to be published. The last thing I'm going to show you is that you can then export it and say, I want to export this either to an existing program like these that already exists that we have created with Magnity, or you can clone a program for the list of standard programs that you have inside the Marketo solution of Grundfos and name that. So you build a clone of a program. I'm not going to do that. And go over here, and then you can select either you want to export all of these or just export a few of them. Select whether you want it to be in one big dynamic email or in static emails. And then you can add that to programs and say export. And then it's going to export this either as a static email into the specific folders or instances in Marketo, or as a dynamic email into the global folder or the regional folder as one email with different type of elements. And it will immediately be available for you inside Marketo. So I guess that's the overall demo. I'm going to go back to the slides. I can't see people right now. I'm just gonna have to. I don't know how to maximize the little thing in the left. Maybe it's here. Ah, it's here. Right. No, I'm just gonna go back. One moment. Here and like this. So I think it's back to you, Sanne, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So if we are going to look at the results we saw on the POC, it especially was on the translations where we had the focus. And what we found out on the POC was that 91% of the test results were being finalized and proofreaded in less than 10 minutes, and 98 were in 15 minutes. So this means that we could actually see that we did not use that much longer time on proofing than we did before Magnity. And that was a huge win and was helping us seeing the possibilities and the success in it, because we had the local marketeers proofreading and giving feedback on the emails and the content. Yeah. And it's still early days, but we can see some results already now. We can see that the external cost reduction is 100%. We are not using external agencies anymore. The time to market have been before 6 months. Now it's 1 month for one of the division, and we are hoping that this will continue for all 4 divisions. And for the content creation, before we started on briefing on content, we used 2 months, and now we use 30 minutes before we have a final content ready to be used in newsletters.
So I'm just going to take over for just a few minutes and say that we have a lot of customers using this. I'm not trying to sell you anything, but there are like people like Scania, who's, I don't know if they're in the meeting, I think they are. Novonesis is using it, they use Salesforce. And WS Audiology, who's a hearing aid company, use it, and they have a lot of good things to say in all kinds of different ways, of course. And basically, we are working together with 9 brands at the moment: Grundfos, Deloitte, Scania, PFA, WSA, Audiology, Velliv, Signia, Videx, and Novonesis. All of them, bar a few B2B companies with complex decision processes, a lot of different internal and external stakeholders in doing that, a lot of content, a lot of languages, and a lot of complexity. And they all feel like this platform is helping them as it has helped Grundfos. So I think I would turn it over to you. Michael, and over to the audience if there's any questions.
Thank you so much for the presentation. This was very interesting and insightful, and just to see behind the scenes, the technical person in me is very happy right now. There are a few questions in the chat. I can, Michael, would you like to read them?
Sure. And they're coming from me, and I apologize for this, but it sparked some interest on my end. So you responded to the question around whether you could actually replace the translation tool that you were using before with a resounding yes, right? Which is, I think, pretty cool and interesting. It would be interesting to hear if there were any legal ramifications on starting to use AI in a organization like you guys, Senne, because I know it's one of the things we're challenged with in getting AI into these kinds of setups. So it would be cool to hear if you ran into anything there and how you maybe solved it, if that's something you can talk about in less than a half an hour.
Well, we have had legal involved in this, of course, and we have had them to look into the challenges. We have not been challenged that much because what Magnity are using is maybe you can answer better on that, Ulrik, but it's a more secure platform. So we are not sharing. And the good thing is that all content we are using are already available. So we don't have any secrets that we are sharing. We have everything that you can find online already. So that of course helped a lot on this.
Yeah, we see that Deloitte is one client that's very worried about the legal perspective, and they have approved it. And their initial reaction, along with other stakeholders, is that because we are not using any content that's behind a firewall or somehow secret, but it's open content, there's no concerns around the access. And because we are using the API, which is basically not allowing OpenAI to train on the data, that's also alleviated. But we are also connecting to some clients to the enterprise model of ChatGPT, so that if they want to keep it entirely in-house, they can do that as well.
Cool. It's interesting. Unless there's anybody with some follow-up questions, I have another one, if that's okay. This aspect of starting to work with AI in a marketing organization, to me, feels like, a new adventure. And that adventure starts with prompting in reality. I know it's something that we should all get a black belt in by now already in reality, because it's the future. There's no way around it. We need to be able to do this because it's going to be a requirement in our jobs. Have you seen any kind of experience you can share on that? I guess actually I want you to respond, Sen, and then Ulrik, maybe you can chime in with your wider experience. How did the marketeers actually, take that prompting in? Are they using it, or are they just using the library that the Magnity is offering up there? But it's an extensive library, granted, but how does that?
It's a learning curve, I would say, and I know that they are using both. So some are discussing with the chat AI, but to find the right solution, and trying to find the right way to communicate with that, and that is a learning curve. So it's good that we have both opportunity to rely on the quick prompts, so we can find an easy way how is the best practice to prompting, but also have the opportunity to discuss it with it and find the right way to communicate. So it's a learning curve, and it will be different from each marketeer how they are doing that and how much they are already now communicating with ChatGPT.
Interesting.
I can add a little detail to that. I didn't showcase that actually in the demo. I don't know why I forgot, but there's a small delete button over each of the elements in the chat. So we can actually do this Men in Black thing where we just go and say, oh, I didn't say they, whoop, and you just take out the conversation you've had up until a certain point. Meaning that if you feel like you're chatting your way into a corner, you can just go back and say, oh, forget what I told you the last 10 minutes. Let's start over. So it enables people to be much more willing to experiment a little bit because they don't feel like it has consequences when they do stuff. It's more like learning at the learning curve, having fun, trying it out. That helps a lot.
Really interesting. Really interesting. No follow-up. Another question David's asked, when new content is published on the website, so in this case on Grundfos' website, does that content library in Magnity get automatically updated?
Right now it doesn't, because we have a very strict roadmap where we are focused on to get all the features out for Grundfos. But it would be quite easy if that was a feature that anybody wanted to add the sitemap and say, once the sitemap gets updated, we go in there and crawl the content. You can easily add content manually. So let's assume a news article came out. I can add that content into Magnity in maybe 10, 20 seconds by just clicking a small plus button in the interface and entering the URL. And then you will have the content in your interface fast. So there's two options. Either if you have a large swath of content that comes out and you want it to be mapped across all the different regions, you can send it to us and we'll do it. We can build a small feature that does it, or you can just do it manually with smaller pages inside the interface right now. But these things are all things, I mean, AI is just as new as we are, so it's features that's being built in, but it's not something we haven't thought of, for sure.
Awesome. There's another question from Nick. Nick, do you want to
I can
read it?
ask this. So, yeah, this is very interesting. I'm just wondering, especially from a Marketo perspective. So in Marketo, you have opens, clicks, there's several insights you have. Do you have plans of using that to evaluate the quality of your content so that you can tell the AI how good certain content is and perhaps even improve future generated content?
Yes, we have, and that is part of the roadmap that we're now trying to develop upon. So basically, the end goal of this application is to build an autonomous marketing agent that's going to help you deliver marketing across any kind of function that you want. And in that process, there's a lot of steps to go through. One of them is to teach the AI the entirety of your content and then allow it to choose what content to present them in a flow, or choose what content to send them in a single email. And in order to become better at that, it needs feedback, human reinforcement learning, so to speak, from a machine that can tell it, this worked for this group, this didn't work for that group, so that it becomes increasingly better at choosing what flows to build, what emails to build, and what to send people. So in our roadmap, we have a connection back into Marketo or Salesforce or any other instance where you can identify a specific email or a specific target group to teach it what works and what doesn't. But it does take volume. So that's also one of the things that we are looking into, is to get more customers so we can get the appropriate volume, because I'm not sure you would maybe want to test, optimize the same thing as another customer that doesn't look anything like you would like to optimize on. So there is like a roadmap towards that requires more volume, and also the desire to actually maybe exchange training data, so that you have to get other companies in there and exchange training data with them without knowing, so that the model becomes better at writing if there's not enough volume. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks.
Great. Yeah, a lot of interest, and that's so nice. Thank you again for the presentation. I know we're at time. We have a smaller topic to discuss. So for those who can still stay, I will take no more than 10 minutes. We're going to go back to Marketo. We're going to switch gears and talk about Adobe Identity Management migration. You perhaps heard about it from your CSM. This migration will come this year, I think, to all instances. And I wanted to give you a heads up what it means, what is it. So Adobe scheduled this migration basically to get all the users in the Adobe Admin Console, and this is the ultimate level from where the Adobe products are being managed. This is part of the integration of Marketo to the rest of the Adobe suite and ensuring everyone is compliant and using the right logins with unique IDs. It's a necessary migration, so everyone will go through it at some point. It will not affect any workflow, content integrations, or assets. So just a little bit of language and a screenshot of how the admin console looks like. The Adobe identity will be based on email addresses, and in the admin console, you will see not only Marketo, but other Adobe products that you are using. I have a map of the migration, and I know it looks a bit complex, so I will do my best to simplify it quickly. But I'll start with saying that after the migrations, all users will sign in via this new identity way. There will be a change in the URL of the instance. So Marketo will go from being served on experience.adobe.com to Adobe Experience Cloud. And that requires a change, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And then the user management will move from Marketo in the admin area to the Adobe Admin Console. So that means adding a new Marketo user or deleting a Marketo user. So here are the 6 steps that are going, and most are in the background. So we are not going to see this, and don't get intimidated. I'll start with the step 1. So this is where actually the admin console is added in the instance. So there will be a tile in the admin area. The migration looks different if you have single sign-on or not. So if you want to do single sign-on, this is a point to set it up. Yes, I'm just checking if I am forgetting anything here. The admins will be involved here. So the admins will be notified by Adobe product that this migration is coming. All right. I'm not watching the chat. I see there are some comments. I will continue with step 2. So the schedule user migration start date. This is when the date is set. So a date is set to 30 days in the future. When the migration happens, this date can be modified by your Marketo admins. And the Marketo admins will communicate at this point to your users that this is coming and there are some changes. And then the admins will be responsible for completing the user migration via the migration tool, which is that tile that will be made available in your instance. Step 3, migration day. So about 1 week before the migration date, the date is locked, so that cannot be changed. The users will be directed to a self-serve migration where they will need to verify their email. And the admins should encourage, the users to do that, because after the day, they will not be able to log in the traditional way. And admins will also receive some notifications if users haven't yet followed the process. So communication is very important at this step. And yes, on the migration start date, This will happen at 12 a.m. I think in the time zone of the instance. Some users will be locked out for a few minutes, so don't panic if this happens. The admins will be automatically migrated, so good news if you are a Marketo admin. And this is, I'll go back to that SSO that I mentioned, because there's a piece here where if you have less than 75 users in Marketo and no SSO, there will be an automated migration done by Adobe in the background, which is good news. But if you do have SSO set up, or you have more than 75 users, then you can migrate in batches, and you can actually go in and select which users to migrate and when, I think. And there's a little bit more work here from the Marketo admin. Okay, so you can migrate them or schedule the migration at a later date. So there's some flexibility there and control from the admins. All right, we're almost there. So once the user migration is complete, then the Adobe sends an email notifying the way to log in is changed. So the users will know to log in a new way. They will accept an invitation to sign in using this Adobe identity. So they will use the Adobe ID. I think most of you already have it, but just calling it out that it can be different today than how you log in. And then the system admins will get an email when the migration is complete for the instance, and then everyone signs in the new way. Here's when the users will start being managed within the console. So every change that you make in your instance for adding or removing users will be done in that console, Adobe Console. And the last step, this is actually, this slide is what I had from the training for trainers we got, where I understood that there will be a new support portal to log in cases. Michael, is that still accurate? Yeah.
It's correct. It'll be done in the Admin Console in reality. So you'll create cases in Admin Console instead of going through Nation like you do today.
All right, that's helpful. Yeah, I'm excited about that. New support portal.
It's very confusing right now, unfortunately, because we've got a lot of people that are kind of in limbo. So they've migrated, but they in reality still could go to Nation and create a case. And how do you manage that? So if you've migrated, you should use Admin Console. That's at least the recommendation we have. And remember to tag your cases with Marketo, because then it gets routed to the right type of person. If you just do a general request, you might get first-line support that is less knowledgeable about our interests. Let's use that term.
Got it. Okay, well, this is what I have on the migration. I will drop a link in the chat if you want to read more, get prepared, and there's some communication templates, how to talk to your IT, for example, once the migration is coming up, to move those URLs to the allow list. So just some things for you to keep in mind. That's it. We are at the end of our presentation. I don't know if there were any other questions on the identity management or for Ulrich and Sene.
I think Nana got her question responded to. Ulrich responded in chat, and that got a thumbs up. So I think we're good there. And Monsieur Leclerc might want to come on mute and talk about the experience they had in their conversion. That's not a requirement. That's an offer. We're here to learn, right? So if somebody else can learn from your experience, that would be of course great.
Yes,
No
I can give
requirements.
you some insights if wanted.
Maybe somebody can learn from it. So
Yeah,
I'll leave it up to you.
We were one of the first, and Michael, you probably recognize my name or my voice. Same for you, Ulrich. I had that standard in my Zoom. I never use Zoom, so that's why I had a different name today. No, we did it, I think, last year, I don't know, August. Yeah, August. And we've had slow performance of Marketo. We had big problems when it comes to the name change of the domain. Because all our bookmarks, everything didn't work anymore. But I do believe that Marketo has made changes during the migration, so that should not longer be a problem. Yes, the support thing is an issue because I have access to Admin Consol, but I also have access to another Marketo, which is not part of Admin Consol, which means is that I need to go into 2 support portals in order to fill things in. If you add a person via the Admin Consol, it gets synced to Marketo, but it gets a standard marketing role. Well, we don't use a standard marketing role, so then I still need to go back into Marketo and actually give the right roles to a person, which actually makes it a double effort that you need to do. We had also had problems. I think that's also fixed. Is that we were only able to see in Marketo the API users, and we were not able to see the human users. So we were not able to even assign rights and roles to people. So we had a lot of different kind of problems. And I think that we have addressed most of them. And I think that since now it's working quite fine. But hopefully I think that all the problems that we had, that everybody that's going to go into a migration will not get them. Because it's been highly annoying. We've had Marketo load times of 33 seconds. Every time you would load Marketo and go to a different entity or refresh your screen, it would take 33 seconds before it loaded. And that's not a way to work with Marketo. And that was like August, September, October. And now it seems to be back to normal. But beware that there will be surprises. But I think that most of them have been fixed by Adobe.
Yeah, that's very helpful to know. Thank you so much for that insight. I actually haven't migrated yet in my instance, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I can tell you, the Admin Consol is way more complex than the Marketo admin interface. You've got different levels. You need to assign certain people to different roles. It's just if you're purely an Adobe user and you only use Marketo, it's not the most friendly way of working. But if you have multiple Adobe applications in your stack, then it actually is quite nice because you can manage everything from one interface. But that's another problem that we have. We actually have 2 interfaces for an Admin Consol. One that's related to Marketo, another one that's related to Workfront, which is hosted in a different part of the world. So we actually have 2 parts that we can actually log into. So sometimes it's good to take a step back and really think, okay, what is it that we want to achieve with the Admin Consol, and ask Adobe for help, because you probably will not be able to solve it yourself.
And there are some options where you can merge them together. It's not impossible to do, but it's not a trivial thing for us to do it either. So but let's communicate with us, and then we'll see what we can do about it. But those thank you, Frank. That was sorry, I've named your name now. But
No worries.
it's this type of feedback that I think is good for everybody to learn. So thank you for unmuting. Really great.
Yeah. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Really excited to kick off this year with the MUG, and we are going to schedule a new session soon, and you will be notified via mugsmarketo.com. We'll have a recording link that we'll share after the session, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the day.